Hi everybody, I thought I'd take this opportunity to go over a little bit more about the directions for the synthesis paper. Now this is going to be a little bit easier to write because if you have done a good annotated bibliography, you're off to a good start already, so that's wonderful. Now this is a paper that is probably still the hardest one in the course because it requires a lot of thinking, and it also requires submission of a draft for formative feedback. I will give you a lot of required revisions, so that you get the best possible points for this and for when you submit for your summative evaluation. Of course, they all must be in APA format, and this requires 5 full pages of assignment of the introduction and the body. Okay, the abstract and the reference list and the table do not count as those 5 pages of body. After 5 pages of the body of the content, I'm going to stop reading. So it has to be, your full paper must be within those 5 papers. It must be succinct. Okay, that's very important. So the first thing you start with here, of course, your cover page, then the abstract, which is on its own separate page. Then on the second page, or third page actually, you start with your introduction. And in the introduction, you can use systematic reviews, meta-analysis, or the Cochrane reviews to introduce the significance of the topic, but you can use them only in the introduction. And then end that introduction with your aim for the review of the literature. You know, what is your PICO question that you were working to resolve there? Then, of course, the body or content of your paper begins, and I suggest using the following bolded words as your headings: the lit search, the lit review, synthesis, and clinical recommendations. That's all you need. So in the lit search, you will need to identify the search engines that you used and the key terms used. That's very short, probably 1 or 2 sentences. Then the lit review. Again, you cannot use systematic reviews or Cochrane reviews here. You must use primary, original, randomized control trials for this. And then you must concisely summarize each study. Again, you can pick up right where you left off from the annotated bibliography to write a succinct paragraph and use that appraisal checklist to appraise those strengths and weaknesses of the study. And for this paper, you must have a minimum of 3 primary randomized control trials and 1 clinical guideline that you can find on AHRQ website or guidelines.gov. That's in the module that you can get some information about. And if you cannot find a guideline, because not all practice issues have practice guidelines, you need to have another study. And we could talk about what that other study is. If you can't find a randomized control trial, it might be okay to have one that's not as high level as that. And then finally, then your synthesis, where this is the hard part of the paper actually, where you have to synthesize the research from all the studies and come up with something new. What does all this mean? You know, so what have you learned essentially? And describe what is known and what is not known in the field based on your lit review, and you must be very concise. The synthesis should be 1 or 2 paragraphs. And then clinical recommendations. You know, given your synthesis, what are the clinical recommendations that emerge for your clinical setting or that population? And describe how the practice change should be changed to become evidence-based. Then, of course, you have a reference list, and then followed by the table. The table, I have an example of a table in the directions. You must refer to it in the body someplace, at least once, and it should be labeled lit review. This table is labeled as, and you can see that I have it in 5 columns. There's room for 3 more studies, but the first one is McCain, and I put the reference there. Then I just copied the aim that was in the paper and put that there, and then the design and the measures. The design here is a randomized control trial, and the measures that these authors used were days to full nipple feedings and length of stay, 2 very commonly used in the neonatal population measures. And then who the sample was. This was 86 preterm infants. And the outcomes / statistics. So here, I want to see some statistics here. So here the infants in the experimental group achieved full nipple feeding sooner than the control infants at a level of P is less than 0.001, which is highly significant. And the length of stay was 5 days shorter in the experimental infants, but was not statistically significant. So, those statistics go right back to those 2 aims that we had. So then there'd be room for, then you would put your other 2 in here as well. This is the table is a very good visual reminder about that helps you synthesize the literature also, because it's just in concrete, black and white kind of stuff. So those are my directions as best I can for the synthesis paper. There's also a short little PowerPoint in the module 2 for this about how to actually write a synthesis paper that should be useful, and I believe I have an example posted on the in the module also. So if you have any trouble, any questions, give me a call. I'll give you as detailed feedback as I can so you can be successful in this course.